played in the seating bowl because I thought you'd like it out here a lot better than in that seating bowl area. I got to tell you about the ballpark. This is the second oldest ballpark in all of baseball. Someone here's got to know what the oldest park is. Fenway Park in Boston, right. Fenway was built in 1912, Wrigley Field 1914. I'm going to throw another one at you, see how good you guys are. What's the third oldest ballpark?
Detroit.
No.
They got a new one now.
Well, not the new one.
A standing ballpark. LA Dodgers, that's right. 1962 though. So you can see there's a 50-year gap between the oldest and the third oldest. As a matter of fact, there's only 7 ballparks, and I think the Rogers Center is
Skydome.
Skydome. Well, it became it's still the same ballpark though. Right?
No, it's still Skydome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I think that's the 7th oldest. There's only 7 ballparks that were built before 1989. So all the good ones are gone. That's, you're never going to get this close intimacy in any ballparks they're building nowadays. I mean, come on. You're sitting here in the bleachers. I'll tell you what, you got something to say to that left fielder out here? He's going to hear you. And believe me, our bleacher fans do have conversations with the left fielders out here quite a bit. Now, one thing when we're out here right now, you get to see how it looks empty, and you get to see all these numbers on the seats. I'm going to tell you what those numbers mean. They mean absolutely nothing. The only time that these seats are sold as seat and row number is during the playoffs and World Series. And otherwise, what we have here, we have 5,000 general admission seats. So what does that mean? Oh, what that means is that the parks, the gates in the park open 2 hours before the first pitch. So at 11:20 today, what you're going to see is a line of people down Waveland and Sheffield Avenue, waiting to get in the bleacher gate, which is right below that scoreboard over there. And when they open those gates, they get their tickets scanned in, they get those bags inspected, and against their security's better wishes, they run up the stairs and the ramps to get to their favorite seat. Now, some folks like to sit here in left field. Some folks like to sit in right field. There's people that come out here, they wait hours before the game just so they could sit on the very top row underneath that scoreboard. Someone asked me today, and I know the reason why. It's the only shade in here. Yeah. Now, back in the late 60s, we had a group of fans that used to come out here, very famous, became famous, actually infamous or famous, whatever way you want to put it. They were called the Bleacher Bums. Now, how they got that name is this. You see, people come to a couple games a year, they might watch a lot of games on TV, but anytime they look, and the reason I like to sit you right here is because this is the section that the Bleacher Bums used to sit in. There were about 25, 30 girls and guys. They would wait here early, get their same seats every game, and the bleachers only went up 9 rows. Imagine that. Only 9 rows, right up to here. And it was like, then there was a fence, and that was it. That's why a lot of those home run balls went out on the street. So they would sit right in this section, and people would think, well, if they could come to every game, which they did, they must not go to school, they must not have a job, so they must be a bum. Because you see, back then, all those games in the late 60s were day games. Because we didn't get those lights. By the way, we were the last team by 40 years to get lights. Detroit was the second to the last, and they got their lights installed in 1947. Our lights, they waited until 1988. In fact, they picked a very catchy date to have the first night game, so that you would never forget it.
August 8th.
8/8/88. It just passed by. 8/8/88. Put that in your mind. Well, I'll tell you what, forget it. Because it didn't happen. Well, it's kind of happened. Park was loaded. We had a 93-year-old gentleman push the button, said, "Let there be lights." The ballpark got lit up. Game started. Ryan Sandberg hits a 3-run homer. We're leading 3-0. Then the rains came down and kept coming down. Game got rained out. Didn't count. As a matter of fact, our Hall of Fame announcer, Harry Carey, you can see his caricature there over the TV booth. He said that night, he was announcing the game, and after the game he said, "See, the good Lord doesn't want us to play night games here at Wrigley Field." That's why he made it rain. But nevertheless, the Mets came in the very next day, August 9th, and we did have our first night game here, and we won that game too, by the way. Now, you know, when you get out here 2 hours before the game starts, if you're out here in the bleachers when batting practice is going on, be prepared. This is like an artillery zone here, because a lot of those balls don't go out anymore. They come right in here. You're going to see 20, 25 balls come up into the bleachers here. Good place to snag a souvenir. But you know, sometimes they don't have batting practice. In fact, Madden doesn't like to have batting practice at all. I think maybe Toronto might have it today. But so it's a lot of time, 2 hours to kill before the first pitch, right? Well, now we got our smartphones. You can check your email and Facebook and play some games. But, you know, back then in the 60s, didn't have it, right? So, you know what the Bleacher Bums did? They invented some games to pass the time. Now, most of those games I can't tell you about. We have some kids here, you know. But I will tell you about one of the games. It was called the Bleacher Races. Here's how it went. Now, of course, the bleachers have been expanded, made bigger, looked a little different than they do now. In fact, you see this corner here, this wall over here? That's the way it looked from foul pole to foul pole. And there was no basket in front of the wall over here. And what they would do is this. Here's how the game went. They would stand a left field bleacher bum on top of the wall by the left field foul pole. They would stand a right field bleacher bum on top of the right field foul pole over there, on top of that wall. Now in dead center field, right now that's actually a private place you could watch the game. If you've got about 99 of your best friends, you could have a party in there. But that was all seats before. It was actually covered with a tarp, so the batter, called the batter's eye back there. But in center field, there usually was an attractive young lady holding a handkerchief and a cold beer. Yes. And at the drop of that handkerchief, those bums would run along that wall. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. This probably wasn't the first beer that they were going to drink that day. They may have had a few while they were waiting out there in line. So their motor skills weren't quite up to par. And sometimes they would fall. Now, if they fell into the crowd, not bad. Fellow bleacher bums would give them a few punches, push them back up again, send them back on their way. But if like the 16 of them that fell the other way, the 11.5 feet down to that crushed brick warning track, they weren't so lucky because they usually spent the rest of the afternoon in Illinois Masonic Hospital's emergency room. Now, 1970 came along, opening day, and we had a big surprise out here. They made some changes, and the changes were this. They peaked that wall, and they put that basket in front of the wall. Now, you know, anything over that yellow line, anything that's in the basket is a home run. That's unusual for a ballpark. Normally it has to go into the seating area to be a home run. All it has to do is go over that yellow line in the basket. Now, most people would think that that is a ball catcher, but you guys at least know the truth now. It's a people catcher, and it has been 98% effective since 1969. A couple guys have made it over. Now, if you're sitting out here in the bleachers today, you should be aware of some of the traditions we have out here. One of them Well, I'll tell you what. This is the only Major League ballpark that you will be allowed to throw something on the field during a game, and you won't get ejected from the ballpark. Our Cub fans know, right?
Yeah.
Opposing team's home run ball. That puts you Toronto Jays fans into a bind here, right? Because see, if a Toronto home run comes up here today, and you should be able to get that ball, you are going to be strongly urged by our Bleacher fans to the chant of "throw it back, throw it back," and that chant will get louder and louder the longer you hold on to that ball. So I'm going to just off the record, advise you, throw it back. See how steep it is? Beer spills, who knows what could happen up here. You never know. But I'll tell you what, come on, let's get real. I mean, home run ball. We just had a guy hit his first home run from Cincy over here. You know what? You don't want to throw that ball back. As a matter of fact, that ball actually went out on the street, and one of those ball hawks threw it back on the field. But I'll tell you what, he didn't really throw back the ball. Because, see, I'll tell you what, my son was actually one of those guys out there for a number of years. And they figured out a way to keep those home runs, those momentous home runs. You come to the park with a ball in your pocket. See? And when that home run ball comes in, you do the old switcheroo. You see what I mean? As a matter of fact, the guy Dave that actually got that ball, he traded it for a bat and jersey. So what you do is you pull the switcheroo, you throw the old ball. Yeah, it could be a little league ball or even a sponge rubber ball. It's, they're going to. You're going to get the loudest cheer of the afternoon anyway. For sure, you're going to get a louder cheer than the guy who hit it. That's another tradition we have here at Wrigley. See that flag up there, huh? Boy, you know, when we win, they leave that thing up there all night long. After the game, you see how that all started with Mr. Wrigley in the early 40s. He realized, once again, people didn't have phones. Usually you have to wait till the next morning's newspaper to find out what happened to the Cubs that day, right? So he had the idea of flying that flag if the Cubs win the game. Now, we do have another flag. It's dark blue with a white L on it. It's only this big. No, it's the same size. To let the people coming home on the L from work and the kids in the neighborhood riding their bikes around, they would know what happened to the Cubs that day. Another little side story that I just learned about that W flag. So this, some of the Cub flags, the Cub fans all know about that W flag. But see, Mr. Wrigley was one of the owners of the Cubs for about 50 years. He also owned Catalina Island off the coast of California. In fact, the Cubs had their spring training facility there for about 10 years. And there was a ferry that took people and cars over to that island. And the ferry company was called the Wilmington Ferry Company. So when he bought the island, he also bought the ferry company, and that was the flag that they used right there. Well, some little trivia that you didn't know, right? There you go. Now, while we're out here, when I was outside, I told you we have 3 protected landmarks here at Wrigley Field. I told you about the marquee board out in front. Our scoreboard. That's another protected landmark. Now, this was put up, actually, the bleachers, the permanent bleachers, the wall, scoreboard, were put up in 1937. Prior to that, all we had was a wooden wall out here in front of, in front of the outfield here. And the scoreboard was actually down on the field. There's an old wooden scoreboard on the field. So what they did is they put that scoreboard up there. Now what you see is what you get. That's all it is, steel box. That's it. There's no heat, no ventilation in there. As you can see, they're ventilating it right now because normally the only ventilation are those side panels. That's the only way you get a little air in there. Now the only access in there, you see that ladder on the left-hand side of it? That goes up into a trap door. And you go in through the trapdoor. That's the only way in or out. What you're going to find are 3 levels of scaffolding. And now, depending on the amount of teams that are playing when the Cub game is going on, which today you can see we have a full slate here today. Yesterday we only had a couple teams because it was a couple games because it was a day game. But there's going to be anywhere from 3 to 8 scoreboard operators in there. And what they do is they manually change those numbers. You can see those panels are out over here. They're going to put the pitchers' numbers in there.
Do they have to stay in there the whole time?
Yeah, and they have to stay in there for the entire before the game and a little bit after the game. And they take those panels, and they're actually 16.5 by 27 inches. And they weigh about 5 or 6 pounds. And they keep track not only of the Cub game, which is always in that lower left-hand side, but all the other games that are going on when the Cub game is going on. Now, when I say all the games, you know, when that got landmark status, we can't alter that anymore. It has to stay the same way it is. So we really can't fit all the teams up there. Because when the scoreboard was put up in 1937, there were only 8 teams in each league. Now, nobody envisioned having 30 teams in baseball. So we always have to leave a few off. Usually it's teams we don't like Cincinnati and Milwaukee. No, actually we do watch those all the time, but it's usually those West Coast teams that are playing in a couple different time zones than us. Now, gentleman asked over here if they can leave there. Well, no, they can't. They have to stay up in that scoreboard all during the game and a little before and a little bit after. That is the reason why we have never had a woman work in that scoreboard. Now, we have women tour guides, we have women on the grounds crew, we have women all, my boss was a woman. Hey, women all over Wrigley. Never in that scoreboard. Since 1937 have we had a woman that worked in there. I always like to think that women are too smart to climb into a scoreboard, that when it's 90, it's about 110 in there. And in the beginning of the season, it's like freezing. It just holds everything in, the cold in. But the real reason, it's the plumbing situation. If you look at that, well, you can't see it from here, but there's a pillar out there holding up the scoreboard. And next to that pillar is a PVC pipe. Inside that PVC pipe is a rubber hose. The rubber hose extends up into the scoreboard, and at the end of it is a funnel. You look like a smart group. I think you could figure out the rest of it. Like, a little too much information I'm giving you right here. Any questions about the bleachers?
So, is this the bullpen? Is this new bullpen over here?
No, the bullpens are actually, they took the bullpens off of the field. This is the first year that we haven't had the bullpens on the field. They put them below us, in between this wall and another wall down here, a little further down. Where you see the Under Armour door there, that's the visitors' bullpen. There's another Under Armour door, that's the Cubs' bullpen. Now, there's a walkway that goes behind it. And the plan was they put a one-way glass in there so that our bleacher fans could actually watch the pitchers warm up. You know, the one-way glass is you could look in, the players didn't want to get distracted, so they couldn't look out. But unfortunately, nobody thought that our fans would ever be banging on the glass disturbing. So what they did is they put a shade on there, so they do keep the shade drawn now. So sometimes best laid plans have gone to hell, you know.
So this is fan seating, the bar stools?
Yeah, this seating here, there are a couple private areas that you can rent out here. This area, like right here, you could hold 50 people in here. It's kind of like a standing sitting room, and they do sell it in 15 person sections as well. There's ABC there. I actually rented that out one time for some of my friends.
Cool.
And there are a couple in the ballpark. Up on top over there and in that corner over there are private sections. But the seating here is 5,000 general seating. I'll tell you what, let's, you know, the most common question is, what about those rooftops? So let me take you over there on the right field side and we'll talk about those rooftops.